Netroots Nation, please welcome the International President of the Association of Flight Attendants CWA, Sara Nelson.
Hey, Netroots Nation! What a feeling being here. Now I want to hear from you. Where did you travel from? Tell me. Let me hear it one more time. All right, this is where change makers come to feel connected, recharged, define what's at stake, and what we can do to fix it. This conference is living and breathing solidarity, and I am all in for it. And for my CWA sisters and brothers in the room, it's Thursday and we wear red. We honor the blood that's been spilled on the picket line and the blood that we share as a union family. I know the power of solidarity because I've lived it. As a brand new flight attendant at United Airlines, the company failed to pay me. With a balance of $0 in my bank account and no idea how I could even eat that day, I went down to the airline office and asked why I hadn't been paid and what was going on. They had no answers, and for the first time, I felt like I was just a number in an HR file. The tears started to roll when I felt a tap on the shoulder, and that changed everything. I turned around and saw someone standing there who looked a lot like me. She was wearing the same uniform anyway. Otherwise, I'd never seen her before. She's holding her checkbook and asking me how to spell my name. She hands me a check for $800, and she says, number one, you go take care of yourself. And number two, call our union. I did call our union, and I had my paycheck the next day. And that's when I learned the power of being a part of a union. They fought for me in a way that I couldn't fight for myself. I learned that in our union, we're never alone. The Association of Flight Attendants was formed to beat back discrimination that ranged from quitting at age 30 or stepping on a weight scale until 1993. The great labor leader, Mother Jones, said, the aristocrat gang of thieves made the ladies, but God Almighty made women. The flight attendants, 80% organized, claimed our place as women, and even fought to make sure that men could have the same rights as us on the job. And we were at the forefront of LGBTQ rights because it doesn't matter who you love, it only matters that you love. And that is the spirit that led flight attendants to take on big tobacco and win, and it's the spirit that led flight attendants to declare we wouldn't work flights that facilitated the administration's evil policy of family separations. And it's the spirit that mobilized action with many of you right here in this room. We took action together against ICE detention of one of my members who was a dreamer, winning her release within 18 hours of coming to our attention. And it's that spirit that allowed us to take a firm stand during the government shutdown. Just 5 years after I started my flying career, the events of September 11th, 2001 changed everything. I had frequently worked Flight 175, the plane you can picture hitting the South Tower of the World Trade Center, because that's the image captured from so many angles after American Flight 11 had struck the North Tower 17 minutes earlier. That could have been me, but instead it was my friends, Amy, Michael, Robert, Catherine, Al, Alicia, Amy, Jesus, and Marianne. Even as we grieved, over 100,000 aviation workers lost jobs nearly overnight, and then the bankruptcies came. I was our communications chairperson, still in my 20s, working around the clock to communicate new procedures, but mostly repeatedly bad news. I remember a day in the office about 6 months into the 38-month bankruptcy when our union president called me to tell me, and we already had 7,000 on furlough. United just called to tell me they are furloughing another 1,500 flight attendants. It all became too much, and in that moment, I told him I just needed to cry. I did. I knew in that moment how I was going to spend the rest of my life. We would have to fight like hell to hang on to everything we could so we could live to fight another day, to fight for the people, and the people that I knew and knew what they deserved. And all too often, workers feel overwhelmed and powerless and desperate. But in my union, I had hope. As a group, we fought on. when everything was stacked against us, bankruptcy, Wall Street, Congress, and the White House. And we made a difference. They had all the power, but because we had our union, we actually had a way to fight back. They stole our pensions. When $80 million would have saved them, the court granted termination with one hammer of the gavel, and in the next awarded $400 million in bonuses to the top executives. But we fought back, and because we fought, we doubled the amount they planned to pay for a pension replacement plan. Mother Jones tells us, you will fight and win. You will fight and lose. But above all, you must fight. Unions create consistent structure for working people to fight back. We also keep the fight grounded, directly connected to what people know and feel. I want to summon in your mind's eye the faces of all the people who walked the picket line this past year. So picture them. West Virginia's teachers and their mine worker parents and grandparents. Grocery workers in Boston, hotel workers in Chicago, Google engineers in San Francisco, and Uber drivers in LA. And you can join Kat Payne, who is a worker right here in Philadelphia at Marriott's Hotel tomorrow. They are fighting for their union under terrible anti-union busting. And you can make a show of solidarity with those workers at the Marriott Philadelphia Downtown Hotel. Meet tomorrow at 1 p.m. outside the registration booth at the corner of Broad and Race. We'll see you there. All of these fights matter. We're connected. We have to recognize our power comes from the ground, not on high. When the teachers of West Virginia were grappling with whether or not to strike, the bus drivers told them, "We've got your back. Not a single bus will drive students to school." Too often, we don't understand our own power. But look around. It's all of us, together. People think power is a limited resource, but using power builds power. And once workers get a taste of our power, we will not settle for a bad deal, and we won't stand by while someone else gets screwed either. That's what happened during the government shutdown. It was a humanitarian crisis with 800,000 federal sisters and brothers who were either locked out or forced to work without pay. And another 1 million people, 1 million people doing contract work, locked out without any warning. Only because of our unions, we heard the story of real people. During the shutdown, agencies were handed down memos from the White House to tell federal workers they were forbidden from speaking up to anyone about how they were faring during the shutdown. AFGE and other federal sector unions put a stop to that and made sure people could express the personal hardship they were forced to face. Federal workers were suddenly no longer nameless, faceless bureaucrats. The stories made them human to the public. No money for rent, for childcare, or a tank of gas to get to work. The federal worker stretching insulin through the night and wondering if she will wake up in the morning. The transportation security officer in her 3rd trimester with no certainty for her unborn child. The air traffic controller who whispered to his union officer, "I just don't know how long I can hang on." The TSA officer in Orlando who took his life by jumping 8 floors to his death in the middle of the security checkpoint. For those of us in aviation, the truth is that if our federal sector sisters and brothers can't do their work, we can't do ours. We are connected. We had to define what was at stake and understand our leverage to fix it. And we said it was time to call for a general strike. But we have to understand that the strike is the tactic. Our solidarity is the power. Calling for a general strike first and foremost made clear who had the power. When it seemed there was no answer and no end in sight, labor led the way. The shutdown ended not so much because a few grounded flights in LaGuardia, but because those 10 air traffic controllers who couldn't safely do their jobs any longer signaled a much more powerful threat to the GOP. Labor was rising, and the very last thing they could allow to happen in this process was to let us taste our power. They saw that they nearly lost everything because we were about to expose the facade that they are the ones in control. Some thought the shutdown was about a wall. If you were looking on social media or network news, it appeared that the wall was already built as the country seemed bitterly at odds over racist fear-mongering. But it was all a lie. I spoke with transportation security officers who told me that if it weren't for the stress of not getting a paycheck, they'd never been happier at work. Normally, the security checkpoints are less than pleasant, but instead of grouching during screening, people said thank you. They were kind, they offered help. Most people want to choose kindness. We pull together when things get bad. I saw it after 9/11, and I saw it during the shutdown. Americans like to feel solidarity. The public had to face people hurting in their everyday life, and that built solidarity, a force stronger than gravity. Our lives and our well-being are completely tied together with workers in Mexico, Canada, China, and Germany. Yet politicians in every country seek to divide us, pit us against each other. We as a movement are not automatically on the right side. We have to choose to be. We have to live that choice. I learned the hard way at the bargaining table with some of the world's most powerful corporations, stacked even with the power of the bankruptcy court, that solidarity and the courage of working people is the greatest force for good in human history. So Netroots Nation, let's use it. Spread the word that the labor movement belongs to all working people. Women, people of color, young people, join unions, run unions. We need your vision, your passion, your creativity, your leadership. So say it with me. Unions belong to all working people. If we understand this, we can change the world. With our unions, we have equal standing with owners. Women have equal pay. We have a voice, a means to drive change. We can't wait for someone else to save us. Netroots, help spread the word that unions are here for everyone. If you're done with poverty, build your union. If you're sick and tired of pension defaults for Main Street and stock buybacks for Wall Street, build your union. If you want for yourself what you're willing to want for someone else, even if they're different from you, build your union. If you want to raise the minimum wage so we can raise the roof, build your union. If you know that our freedom depends on human rights for all, build your union. We don't have to wait for the next election when we have a union. The power of solidarity gets results right away. In our union, we can define what's at stake, recognize racism and sexism and every ism as the boss's tactics, rather than our brothers and sisters' hearts. Change comes fast when risk becomes too great for those in power. And power shifts to people when we act in unity. So finally, look to the people all around you and tell everyone, I've got your back. I've got your back. I've got your back. Right on, Netroots Nation. Thank you.